I said, well, how long do we have to talk? So I promised him I wouldn't be up here no longer than 2 hours. That's all right. Yes, I'm joking.
Keep talking when you're not ready.
I heard about the 7:30 rule, so that's okay. I guess in trying to talk about our drug issues relating to law enforcement, I know that often, it's easy enough to say, what are you supposed to do? I guess we enforce the laws of North Carolina or the United States, if they're federal charges. And in order to try to be effective at that, sometimes I guess we can try to identify with some of the contributing factors in that. So I guess everybody knows that in Halifax County we have got a poverty issue that's very evident for all of us. In law enforcement, from our vantage point, we have serious domestic issues, and there are social issues. So many things contribute to a drug problem. There's not one thing I can say that is more significant than the other. I think we also know that along with our poverty issues, we've got these unemployment issues. It's nationwide. Well, we already had it, so we were kind of used to all this. Other places are catching up to what we've had to deal with. And of course, in this county, we've got limited resources to try to contend with it. Most people do not know that of the 100 counties in North Carolina, our population fluctuates between 42nd and 46th. So our crime index, which is a measured apples-to-apples comparison that the FBI puts together, we should have a consistent index with our population. But for the last 5 and 6 years, we are around 17th ranking out of 100 counties. And we should not be like that, but that's what we've got to contend with. The drug issues in this county are absolutely our biggest problem in our eyes. Over 90% of our criminal activity goes back to some type of substance abuse, whether it be alcohol or the crack cocaine phenomenon, which has taken over since the early 90s. Meth has now picked up, and it's made its way locally. It's absolutely devastating. It's even more harsh than crack cocaine addiction. So we have all that, not to mention that marijuana is probably more popular than it was in the 60s. Everything's accessible. Now, we can't stop it from coming in, and let's face it, there's a supply and demand issue here that is way beyond what we can do. So all we can do is utilize the resources we have and try to make a difference. So with that in mind, I know a few years ago, Sheriff Frazier talked to the federal government, and we came to a good arrangement with the U.S. Attorney's Office because we needed to get some upper-level drug dealers, which I think in times past, local law enforcement has been criticized because you always hear, well, you get the little guys, but you never get the big guys. And until you've got a commitment to trying to get those big guys, that's probably accurate of the past. So for just over 3 years, it was back in 2007 when it very first started, we started working cases on who we believe to be our biggest drug dealers. And let's face it, not everyone here can prove everything you know. We don't have that luxury. We have to prove everything we bring into a courtroom. So it requires a lot of work. It requires a lot of strategy and a serious financial commitment as well as manpower commitment. So in that time, we put together an operation that the federal government has called Operation Burnout. I can only talk about the portions of this investigation that have been public record, which were the arrests, and they're very limited. But right now we've got 20 people that have been indicted and sentenced in Operation Burnout. Not to include those 20 people, we've got one that we've identified as our single biggest drug dealer from Halifax County, and he branches out everywhere from Atlanta to Virginia. He's large scale. His name's Calvin Garner. I don't mind saying it because that's public record now. He's been arrested for it. A lot of assets these drug dealers have. The benefits of us finally being able to take some cases federally is that it's not like the state system, and I'm not going to criticize the state system up here at a podium, but I'll say this much, that our local system is way overburdened. They have got too much to contend with. And often people in the public, they blame us, or they blame a judge, or they blame a DA, or they blame defense attorneys. And I like to blame Brad as much as I can, but I can't even put this on him. just a combination of things contribute to that, where we can't just put every drug dealer in prison. It just doesn't work like that anymore. If it's a nonviolent offense, they're not going to get significant amounts of time until they're frequent flyers of ours. So we've got dilemmas. So to take it a step above that, the federal system is really different than our state system is. And as a result, I started adding some things up